Ireland police have scored a major victory, and they will be screaming and chanting about this for some time after Glen Ward, who caused terror amongst civilians, drug dealers, and gangsters and crime bosses in and around the Finglas area, was officially jailed for 5 years and 6 months for serious offences, also including his brother. According to the gardai, Glen Ward, who was the leader of the Gucci gang dating back to 2016, had armed himself with a semi-automatic during a house party in Finglas. The madman stood at the back door and then pressed the trig in full view of young and impressionable teenagers that were awestruck by the crime boss. As the undisputed leader of the notorious Gucci gang, Glen, who was allegedly responsible for being part of the dangerous subset of the Kinahan cartel, through his access to Class A gear and items like military-grade GUNs, had a long list of admirers, but by virtue enemies, and they were real. Now it's impossible to be a crime boss, gang leader, or dealer and not have to contend with the fact that people who run the same operation as you are not going to be envious or try to muscle in on your territory or operation. In the highly competitive and profitable operation, Mr. Flashy had a stronghold in the Finglas area and often ventured out to wider parts of Ireland by loaning dealers quarters, half kilos, and multiple kilos of Class A. Of course, tax would be added on. The promise was to pay off the credit with interest or work as part of the Gucci gang, where Glen Ward would be given huge percentages of the profits. It's safe to say that most dealers operated with common sense, because if they were not part of the Blanchard Stone mob or the Hennessy gang or Hutchinsons, then they knew not to cross Mr. Flashy. A trail of bodies was evident enough to know that Mr. Flashy had enforcers and hitmen at his disposal. Case in point, in one high-profile case, 23-year-old Zach Parker was shanked on January 17th of 2019 while he sat in a car outside a gym in Applewood Close in Swords. Though at the time Zach Parker was relatively unknown in the wider community, masquerading as a businessman, the 23-year-old was said to be one of the biggest dealers in Swords. His BMW was also his pride and joy, and the gangster was often seen riding around the area in it, so people knew the distinctive BMW. Now, Zach Parker also used to holiday in the typical spots like Dubai, which was a haven for Scottish and Irish gangsters. Now, while he sat in his BMW on January 17th of 2019, an unassuming trig man had approached Zach and his passenger, then unzipped his backpack that he had strung over his shoulder, took out a pistol and then aimed his pistol at the two unprepared men. Zach and his 25-year-old passenger was caught completely and utterly off guard, as the trig emptied their clip, firing multiple times just before 9:30 p.m. Now, while Zach and his passengers were both struck with hot am, the trig men had walked away from the scene, cool, calm and collected. Red pulled along the seats of the BMW as both men were dying. Now, emergency services were called and both police and ambulance crew rushed to the scene to attend to Zach Parker and his passenger, whom were both in serious condition. Zach and Cole was taken to hospital, where sadly Zach Parker was soon to be pronounced dead. The passenger survived. Now, despite theories being that the hit had been arranged by Glen Ward, it was said that he had actually attended Zach Parker's funeral. Now, if those two things are true, then you gotta think what a despicable and brazen kind of person that Mr. Flashy was. Now, 2 years prior to his exit, the 23-year-old had actually been caught with £3,000 worth of Class A gear, being white. The drug had been given on consignment from a known gang operating in Finglas, which allegedly was Mr. Flashy and the Gucci gang. Police actually seized the drug, which then created a debt, which had not only ballooned but did not get paid back. Now, in order to deter other known dealers from making a silly mistake of believing that they could take Class A and not pay for it, it was alleged that Mr. Flashy may have put out a hit on Zach Parker in a twist that would mean that Mr. Flashy set up his own pal. Another theory was that Zach Parker may have owed £50,000 to a traveller gangster that was aligned with jailed gangster Cornelius Price. Now, Mr. Flashy was caught and jailed for the simple fact because his ego was out of control. He believed that the gardai could not do anything to him. Now, Mr. Flashy considered himself untouchable because of his authority and his admiration that he had from the local community. It was probably fear more than anything else. Now, reports say in June of 2022, the gardai descended to a crime scene on Tolka Valley Road, with concerned pedestrians contacting the police to say that they had heard the booming volley of what sounded like gun fire. When police arrived at the scene, they instructed forensics to investigate a taxi that had been riddled with holes. Now, inside the taxi, police found a mobile phone, unassuming at first. But when police analysed the phone, they discovered that the phone was linked to Mr. Flash's younger brother, Eric O'Driscoll. The mobile phone was opened up and police looked at the videos inside. One of the videos on the mobile phone showed that during a party, Mr. Flashy was seen holding a .223 caliber Remington with the barrel pointed into the sky in a party setting. The trig was pressed by Glen Ward and he was seen beaming with a smile before he handed the item to his younger brother Eric, who then did the same thing, pressed the trig too, in which Eric did, and it also impressed the teenagers and young adults at the same time. Now, as part of the investigation, the Gardai searched the home in Finglas in February of 2022, and during that search, police found over £100,000 and also an AR-15 along with a catch of am. Glen Ward's DNA was found in the barrel, the trig, and also the casings. And as part of bringing the case to court, the Gardai had categorised Glen Ward as Mr. Flashy, the leader of the so-called Gucci Gang. Now, the Gucci Gang was considered as a criminal outfit comprised of volatile, reckless, and highly dangerous young men that did the bidding of Glen Ward. Now, police went on to say that the gang was named the Gucci Gang because of its members' predilection for luxury goods, designer clothes, and expensive watches, jewelry, and high-value cars, as well as links to M's of other known dealers and friends that had then turned to foes, and its feud with other crime syndicates. In a brazen tactic, though, to play the victim, Glen Ward pled guilty to being in possession of a gun. After all, it was very, very hard to dispute the video evidence that was found on Glen Ward's own brother's phone, Eric O'Driscoll. Now, in court, Mr. Flash's defense team says that Glen had found jail hard as this environment was foreign to him, coupled with the fact that Mr. Flashy was on 23-hour lockdown and it made his mental health deteriorate. The judge agreed to a degree and says that even though Mr. Flashy was not caught with the gun at the time, video footage represented that he was in charge or at the very least had handled the gun, and that's why a sentence would have to be imposed. Now, as for Eric O'Driscoll, he was also put on trial too, and he had also pled guilty to being in possession of a gun as well, and he was also jailed for 5 years and 6 months, which means ideally the brothers can be out in 3 years or less. The question is, with Mr. Flashy taken off the streets and sitting in jail, is Ireland going to be a safer place now? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Stay safe.